Hello again, YouTube. I'm going to make this quick because I'm just about out of time for this weekend, but I'm going to sit down right now and read out Chapter 1, Part 2 of Lucas Thorn's Sea of Revenants, available now on Amazon. Actually, I take that back. Not available now, but available soon. Yes, absolutely. Okay. Sitting now, bathed in sunlight against the prow, she toyed with the small wooden box and wondered if she'd ever know what it meant, what it was for, and what had been unleashed to drill into her skin and which now haunted her flesh. This is, incidentally, now talking about the worms from the previous time I read to you guys. And I said, not really worms, actually magic. Now we're talking about them again. Recently, a cleric had torn her shoulder apart with fire, seared it back to the bone. It had almost completely healed now, thanks to those worms of shadow. But even with that, she wasn't sure if it was Talek's last gift or his curse. At thought of the recent injury, she winced. Thought. He said though last time, and this time it's thought. I think Lucas just has trouble with the word thought, which actually says a lot about his writing process if you think about it. I mean, think about it. Memory of the pain still made her unconsciously careful with the arm, as if afraid the scar tissue would split open again. Knew it wouldn't, but couldn't help the fear from trickling down her neck. The rowing had helped, had reinforced that frightened part of her mind that the joint was okay. That beneath the wide, dark-coloured scar, everything was normal. Whatever normal was. It was worth it, she told herself. The cleric who'd caused the pain was dead, and that was all that mattered. Nista, are you okay? The elf's glance shifted to Ainul. Fine. The young woman moved across several thwarts with the ease of someone born to the sea, an ease the elf was jealous of. She still felt uncertain with her footing. Stretching out a hand, Ainul offered a small bowl filled with thick soup, a small chunk of heavy sour bread. Eat this. Halvir says it will put hair on your chest. It won't really, but it'll help keep you warm. We all need to be warm right now. Obliged, the elf said, taking the bowl. As she pulled a wooden spoon from one of her pockets, she caught Halvir watching eagerly. The large man had taken the cooking duty since the last one, Revi, had fed the draug with his own body. Revi. Finish. The Finnish word. Torn, ripped, shred. Just like score, except Finnish rather than Swedish. That's probably a coincidence. Knowing what the big man was waiting for, she dipped her spoon and lifted steaming soup to her mouth. It tasted pretty awful. Salted fish in heavily spiced and fermented brine. But she noticed a few others eating with glee, so allowed it must be some kind of local food and not an attempt to make her puke. Shit, man! Pickled herring is so fucking good! You need to do some research before you go running your keyboard. She threw the man a slight nod, and he took that as a sign of approval. Grinned proudly before uncorking a bottle of wine and passing it around. At least the bread was okay, she thought. Dry and chewy. Filling. See, this is Lucas every time I try to eat anything with him anywhere, ever. All this great food, and he's all like, I'll just have bread. It reminds me of my past life where I was a hamster. Oh no, wait, that's this life. And, as Ainul had promised, the spices worked to warm her body's core. Enough so that an hour later, she shrugged free of her blankets and set to helping the two women to shift the sail as directed by Max. The one-eyed man had taken command, while the captain struggled to stay alive. Sea spray spattered her face and the oilskin coat she wore. The cold combined with salt to sting. Did you hear the others? Saja asked. We might make the crossbones tomorrow. Saja. Or, sort of, if you pronounce it the way Scandinavians will, säga, which means to say in Swedish. So that's going to be a fun translation. Ainul wrestled with the ropes. I can't wait to see dry land. I'm going to find the first inn I can find. I ain't coming out for 6 days, maybe 7. You wait and see. I'm going to drink till I can't see Dolmek's face anymore. You shouldn't think about that, Saja said. It wasn't your fault. The madman takes his toll. Dolmek had been last to die. The handsome young raider had been popular with the two girls. He died trying to stop one of the draug from dragging Ainul from the boat. It had had her by the hair and was about to clamp jaws around her shoulder when he cleaved into the crook of its neck with an axe. Not far enough to cut its head free, the axe stuck hard. Unwilling to let his weapon go, he was pulled off balance enough that another of the undead creatures had grabbed his arm and cartwheeled him over the edge. He'd shrieked before the splash. Ainul said she'd seen his face beneath the waves. Yes, wide with fear. My ears! He put an extra E in eyes. It's just funny because it looks funny. Mouth screaming, she said, but there was no sound. I couldn't hear him, she scrubbed angrily at the wretched tears. It should have been me, not him. Bullshit, Nemo growled. Shouldn't have been any one of us. Draug ain't supposed to attack. Ihan makes sure of that. Ihan? Really? Because that's a Finnish word as well. It means really, very seriously, something like that. Ihan varma. Saja finished her knot and looked up to the sail, which buckled in the wind. Maybe the captain pissed Ihan off. It was Halvir who replied. I can't see how. Well, can you think of any other reason we've been marked? Nope. He paused and looked at the elf as Nemo spat bitterly overboard. Reckon you can see some of the lads think you're to blame. Guess you heard that the first night, as they weren't too quiet about it. But the Draug don't seem to be after you specifically, so I reckon it ain't you. Reckon you're just unlucky enough to be on the Ox when she's been marked. Can't say Nemo he is convinced, though. He figures you're bad luck. I figure he just has a think against elves. A think. Fuck you, Halvir, Nemo hissed. I ain't got a thing against Long Ears, but she's trouble. Maybe this ain't her doing, but ain't nothing good is gonna come from keeping her around. She's done alright by us so far, Halvir pointed out, then turned back to Nista. He won't do nothing, knows we need you. Rest of us mostly respect what you do. Just because we work a boat for most of the year, it doesn't mean we believe any old superstitious shit. You have to admit, we know nothing about her, Max said softly. She could have got up old Ihan's goat and we'd never know. The elf let Ainul take over the rope she'd been trying to tie off. Didn't feel ashamed about it. Sailing wasn't what Nista had been trained for. She nodded to the girl, then stepped out of the way, grabbing some of the rigging for balance. Finally looked to Max, who was eyeing her as if expecting a response. Shrugged. Ain't sure who this Ihan feller is, but I'm pretty sure we ain't never met. Halvir moved closer down the boat, eager to continue the conversation. Well, you probably guessed we ain't normal traders. He's written traders with an I, so I guess they're not normal traders. They're part traders, part raiders. She'd heard enough. Jesus fucking Christ, Lucas. She'd heard enough in Southlight to know the Crossbones was an archipelago of mountainous islands southwest of Dragonclaw and somewhere in the heart of the Sea of Blood, infested with raiders who preyed mostly on Caspelian ships further south, and smugglers who worked with both sides. Rumours of slavers peddling flesh to the southern lands was also hot on the tongues of Southlight Kossups. There was also rumour of raiders who'd travel further down the coast in search of spoils, sailing a savage path of looting and slaughter which was known to leave rule foaming at the teeth. She figured this was true with the crew of the Blue Ox. You fight better than most sailors I met, she allowed. Sure, we can hold our own. We've been together a long time. Most of us are from the same town, a place called Cold. He lifted a leg onto one of the thwarts and leaned forward to be heard over the rush of waves. Ihan's what keeps the Crossbones together. What keeps the Caspies from coming up and killing us all. See, it ain't our fighting which keeps them away, or their ships being better than ours. No, it ain't that. It's the Draug. And Ihan controls them, tells them what to do. She frowned. He's a spell slinger then? Max snorted. Ihan? He's just a man. He's more than that, Halvir said. He looks out for the Crossbones, keeps the temple clean, and when someone's got to talk to the madman, he's the one who does it. So the fact they're on our arse right now tells us one of two things has happened. Either we've pissed him off somehow, or he ain't controlling him anymore. Yeah, you said it. And either way, that ain't making our odds of survival look so great. She thought of how smug the sailors had looked when the lights had first appeared, how they'd smirked at her when she leaned over the edge for a worried look. And then she asked what they were, how delighted they'd been to try frightening her with ghost stories about the madman who lived beneath the waves with an army of Draug at his back. For them, the lights had always been a sign of their dominance, their strength. Now they felt what many felt when they saw them boiling in the dark. Fear. She tightened her grip on the ropes, watching the yellow lights in the wake of the Blue Ox. They were definitely getting closer, tracking the small boat with relentless speed. How long before they catch us? The Ox isn't a fast ship, Max said. She weren't meant to be. I ain't ever heard of anyone outrunning running the madman for long. That said, we're making good time. Possible they'll not reach us until morning. Also possible we'll make the Crossbones by morning, so it could be close. But if the wind dies down... The wind? I guess he meant wind, but I guess the wind isn't going to die down anytime soon either, so... Then we're fucked, and they'll have us by midnight. Shit, Ainul visibly slumped. Saja, eyes still on the elf, seemed surprised by her impassive expression as she reached down for her blanket. You don't look worried. Reckon by then we'll have frozen solid, she said, lip curling slightly upward. Means we ain't got a chance of losing on account of us all being a bunch of cold-blooded killers. That joke needs work. I mean, literally, it needs to go and get a job somewhere. far away from this book, giving an opportunity to some better joke. Anyway, that's the end of the chapter, and I'm going to stop there because I'm seriously out of time, and I think you guys need to read this book. Get the book. Go to Amazon. Get the book when it comes out. Get the other books as well, because this kind of makes sense without them. But you need some backstory. There's a whole series going on here, and there's a lot of stuff going on. So yeah, definitely worth a look. Lots of fun. Bye.